Hi everyone, it's Dr. K, and I am making a presentation to tell you a little bit about what I've been working on related to careers in FBS. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so first off, this is my virtual desk. So we've got different information here that may be useful to you, just school resources, deadlines. And then up here is where some of this useful information is specifically that's new. So job outlook by college and major, and then FBS careers. So this is specifically what I wanted to talk to you about today. So FBS careers is a new folder that I've made that anybody can have access to download things. And I've made a few different folders and a presentation that I hope will be useful to you. First off, we have jobs by area of education. These are things that are from our Career Center for criminology overall, FBS overall, psychology overall. I think this is a more broad one. And then here's one specific to forensic science, crime scene, and investigation. So these are great resources to look at and download. Next, we have graduate school things. So there's a lot of information in here that may be useful to you. So take a look as needed. Going with that, I have a grad school presentation and a recording of it, which is right here. So you'll have access to this to look at all of this information and then, talk with faculty to understand any areas that you have questions with. But you can watch the recording. It's about 2 hours, but you can obviously watch it at 2 times the speed or watch only parts of it that you think are useful to you. I have a couple videos here that are kind of broadly useful that I downloaded from YouTube. And then another thing that's, well, this one you probably are curious about, as I've said in classes and in my the Crim 1 video that I just analyzed, that I just recorded. I've worked at the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit as an intern, an undergrad, and after I graduated with my PhD. So I've created some information, some videos here, if you'd like to watch those and hear me talk about that. And then if you have more specific questions about it, we can certainly meet and things like that. So that's what the FBI things means. And then something I think is also very useful is a sample of old job ads that I think are related in some way to FBS. They're not active right now, so you can't necessarily apply for them, but I tried to do a lot of different types of jobs that you could see what postings would look like in these areas. And then if you come across any that you think should be added, please email it to me and I'll add it to our list here. So I'm always looking for help in that. And so if you find things, please do send it to me and I'll add it. But the main thing that is new and useful, I hope, is this presentation, Careers in FBS. Like I said, I've been working on this for about a year now, and some students have helped me with it. So I really hope it gives you lots and lots of information. If you're confused about anything, please let me know. If you think something should be added, please let me know. I'm trying to do this for you. So I would love to make any edits that are needed. So I'm just going to go through this just a little bit. So what's in this presentation? First off, what is FBS in general? What about CSI? Because a lot of people are confused. Criminology and related careers, FBS related careers, and then graduate degrees related to FBS. So these are the general areas of this presentation. So I'm going to update this with the new Crim 1 video that I just did. But otherwise, I talked generally just what FBS is in that video for about 15 minutes. So take a look at that. But overall, forensic is that applying scientific knowledge and techniques to any discipline. And then FBS, Some forensic careers overall, we've got arson, computer forensic, crime scene photographer, forensic accountant, forensic artist, forensic biologist, forensic chemist, so many different areas of forensic specialties. Continued on forensic nurses, coroners, forensic social workers, forensic mental health professional, so many different areas of forensic specific careers. Forensic behavioral sciences are applying the behavioral sciences somehow to the law. So it's not really forensic science. In the Crim 1 video and in this section on what about CSI, I'll tell you more, but basically if you want to have the best opportunities in the CSI area, you need to major or in biology or chemistry. What about criminal minds? No, that's more Hollywood. But as I said earlier in this video, I have worked in this unit, so I can have some inside information for you. I just did this in the Crim 1 video, so I'm just gonna scoot past it. But you have a lot of areas that you can apply to with an FBS degree. So what about CSI? As I said, basically, to have the most opportunities in this field, you really need to major in biology or chemistry, especially if you want to work in a lab and analyze like DNA. You need to have that background. There are some jobs you can get with the CRIM degree or an FBS degree, like collecting evidence from the crime scene, maybe some types of analysis like fingerprints, but you're not going to have, you're not going to be as hireable as some other people. But the best source is to talk to people who teach the CRIM 113 class. They have or are currently working in the DOJ crime lab on campus, and they'd be able to give you the best information here. I also have some helpful websites. And then this video also that I took a screenshot, this is Professor Nguyen, and she is one of the professors teaching the CRIM 113 class. And I typed out exactly what she said at this point in the video because I don't want to steer you guys wrong. If you want to be, like I believe she has a master's in either biology or chemistry. If you want to be the most marketable, you need to get a science degree, and that's not what this is. This is a behavioral science degree, not a hard science degree. So keep that in mind with what you want to do for your future career. Throughout this entire presentation, I also have pasted in information from those job ads that I have in the folder. So this is one out of Orange County, California, that says you need a bachelor's degree in forensic science, not FBS, but forensic science or chemistry or biochemistry or biology. So you cannot work in this lab without a degree in a hard science. Again, FBS would not fit here. And that's what the duties are, et cetera, et cetera. So just showing you what I mean by you need a physical science degree. Here's an example from South. Here are some other names of FBS, not FBS, CSI type jobs that don't necessarily need a physical science background. So crime scene technician, that's likely gathering evidence at the scenes, identification technician, crime analyst, FBI special agent. All of these could fall into that realm with varying levels of different degrees that are needed. But I'm pretty sure a lot of these don't need a physical science degree, but it's going to depend county by county, state by state, what they require. Forensic science specifically, we have sheriff's forensic lab, criminalist, lab technician, criminalist, and then some agents for the FBI do work in the lab, and they might have that kind of physical hard science background. And then investigation, we have investigative technician. So these, especially for the district attorney's office in Fresno, they are actually police officers that work at this. But if you look at the public defender's office in Fresno, these are not licensed police officers. We actually did have an FBS student working as a public defender investigator in Fresno for a while. She moved to San Luis Obispo, but is still doing the same work. So that's that second one, defense investigator. So those are those types of things. And of course, being a police officer, you could potentially eventually be a detective and do some investigation, but you start out as a patrol officer, as you know, a normal police officer, and then you would hopefully work up to be a detective in an agency. Here's an example posting for the forensic evidence technician with associate of science degree, or year of experience, or 2 years full-time evidence tech, what the the job entails, et cetera. Okay, so criminology career examples. Overall, we've got sworn and non-sworn positions. So sworn is someone that usually we're meaning carries a badge and a gun. So probation officer, if you're a police officer, detective, a canine officer, CHP, FBI, CIA, Secret Service, you're sworn in as law enforcement. And then there's non-sworn positions that don't have badges and guns, but still work to help support their units. So dispatch, I think we all know what that is, crime analyst, evidence technician, intelligence mapping, CSI, CDCR researcher, lots and lots more, but these are just some examples for you. I'm going to kind of speed past a few of these things, but you can look at this on your own. Non-licensure related careers, broadly in the criminology area. And then there are specific jobs in crim research-wise, specifically with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, or CDCR. And so we've got a part-time person who works there full-time, and I asked her for information. This is what she gave me in case you're curious. Probably some of these you can get straight out of being an undergrad with your degree, and some you'd be more marketable having a master's degree either in crim or psych, something like that. So look into these if you're curious, but research is certainly an area that you can be in this field. So here's an example of a research data analyst 1, and this is the heading or the level that you'd be able to go into right out of being a bachelor's, awarded your bachelor's. And then research specialist 2 and 3 is more of a, maybe you've been there for a while and you're promoting, or you have a master's degree in crim and you're able to really help with the internal research and understanding the data that they have. Okay, FBS. Overall, I have this image to show that, yes, you can go straight into the career field, which is the left, or you might want to go on and get some more education, which is then graduate school on the right. So first, we're going to look at what are some jobs you can get in FBS right out of graduating with your degree. This is not extensive, but I've tried to give you a kind of overview of a lot of options that would be pretty good. So one is working in a shelter or a group home. Here I pictured the Marjorie Mason Center, one of their group homes, but there's lots of different group homes around Fresno, and of course across the entire country. So that would work. Domestic violence liaison could be something that would fit. That's not a picture from our state, but anyway, that's that. You could be a hotline or residential advocate. So working at a domestic violence hotline or a suicide hotline or something like that could fit very well. A youth advocate also is another job posting. Again, these are all real postings that I found and copied in what they had for that specific job in terms of requirements, education, experience. Another one that I've heard quite a bit, students being after they graduate as a paralegal, You do need a paralegal certificate, but I don't believe that takes too long to get. Often students are even doing this before they graduate with our bachelor's degree. So paralegal is often a job that a lot of people do. Sexual assault response team member also would be one that could work. A medical examiner and autopsies. I'm going to give a little caveat here that some like larger cities, you wouldn't be able to participate in this. They usually want medical doctors or people with that training. Some smaller areas, even within like an hour of here, have even our students assisting with autopsies, students in FBS or CRIM. So it depends on where you live, if you can do this full time or not. It's not going to be something that you can be an FBS person and assist in autopsies in every city. But some cities do allow this, some counties. So that's a possibility. Community service officer, there's lots all around here, but you're not carrying a gun, but you're assisting in various things, like there was a traffic accident and you go and take a report, and lots of other types of things. So take a look at that if you're interested. Counselor tech is another possibility. Case manager, a therapeutic behavioral coach, doing different things related to correctional or forensic health. These are just kind of broad things and not specific examples, but I believe there are some in the folder. And then another area that Dr. Crow pointed out is being an alcohol and drug counselor. So maybe you're not sure if you want to go right into counseling, but you could become an alcohol and drug counselor without having to go straight into a counseling or therapy graduate school program and try it out and see if you like it. So there's some helpful websites here, and what you would need in order to be able to get this type of role and what you can do from there. So here's an example. I forget where this is from, but you do need to be certified in drug and alcohol counseling by an accredited state-approved agency, which you can do after you get your bachelor's degree. And being an FBS or CRIM, that would be, those are good degrees to have before you get this certification. And then what you do in this role. Okay, now if you don't want to do, or what you want to do is needing a little bit more specialization and training, how do you figure out what you want to go, what you want to do and what you want to go to graduate school for? It's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but I'll try and help you the best I can, but it's going to come down to what interests you, and only you know the answer to that. So I tried to make some different types of jobs or careers based on different levels of education. If you have a master's degree, you can teach at a community college. You can be a social worker, you can be a marriage family therapist, a researcher, a clinical counselor, or might you need a doctoral degree? Do you want to be like a full-time professor, like the 5 of us here, including me, a clinical psychologist like Dr. Zizian, a psychiatrist, that's a medical doctor, an expert witness, an attorney. So there's lots of different things to consider. Okay, so this section is all about what should I go to graduate school for? Because you can't just be like, I'm going to go to graduate school at at Fresno State in the psych department, and then I'm going to go be a counselor after that. That's not how it works. You have to figure out specifically what you want to do and then pick the program or type of program that's going to fit. I don't want you to be wasting your time going to like the CRIM master's program when you want to be a marriage and family therapist. That doesn't make any sense unless you want to do both and take more time to do that. But you absolutely would need to do the marriage and family therapy master's program and not necessarily a CRIM one. So that's where I'm coming from. I don't want you to go to graduate school for something and then realize you can't do what you want to do after you get that degree and spend all that time and money. So it's important to figure this out first. And talking to the 5 of us in this department, or really, well, no, it would probably be one of the 5 FBS people can help you figure this out. So I do have an old video of a grad school talk with a former student that I think I linked. I'll put the link there, but it's also in that other slideshow that I already talked about. So watch that, about specifics about applying to programs, both in FBS and in CRIM in general, master's degree, PhD, PsyDs, and then a lot of it is what do you need to apply to these programs? Just a different way to think about what type of graduate program do I want to go to? Do I want to do therapy? Do I want to do research and teach? Do I want to do all of them? How do you figure out what program is best? So I've been trying to figure out different ways to show this to you visually or organizationally so you can really think about the types of jobs that you can get with what degrees. Here's again another way to think about it. What do you want to be able to do? Do you want to be able to prescribe and monitor medication? Do you want to just do, not just, but therapy and assessment without the medication component? There's 3 different broad areas listed here: a psychologist, marriage and family therapist, or a clinical social worker, and what are the difference between those? But these are at least degree titles that you could look into more information about. Psychologist versus psychiatrist is probably not going to be many of us. Psychiatrists are medical doctors, so they go to medical school and everything that entails, versus psychologists, we don't go to medical school. We go to psychology PhD programs or master's programs. So that's a difference between those two. And a different way to think about the types of training and things that you can do. The TEAL are have to be licensed in their state. So if you get a master's in social work and you want to be a social worker, you then have to take an exam and be licensed by the state, just like counseling and therapy and clinical psychology as well. And then there's other areas that you don't necessarily get licensed. But then you're probably not working one-on-one with people in terms of like treating, diagnosing, giving therapy, those types of things. Another way to look at the differences, again, just lots of things here for you to use. And again, let me know if you find other things that are useful that I should add. Another way to look at the differences across practicing psychology. So the top, Dr. Azizian, is a clinical forensic psychologist, and he is able to diagnose and treat people, whereas Dr. Crow has that training, but he is not licensed and doesn't do that as a job, but has good insight that you should talk to him about. And then us at the bottom in the purple, we don't diagnose and treat, but we're more researchers, and we research things related to FBS. So hopefully that helps explain things for you. Yet another way to look at counseling versus clinical, what do you need versus not need? Clinical is the most competitive type of psychology graduate degree, either a master's or PhD, and it can be very, very difficult to get into these programs. So we're trying to say, don't necessarily, still shoot for that if that's what you want for sure, but maybe you don't need to get a master's or PhD in clinical, and you could do counseling or marriage and family therapy or be a social worker, and you would do the things that you want to do without all the headache and extra time that it would be to get a PhD in clinical psychology. Another area that I'm still learning about that I think is very much related to FBS is social work. This might be changing as I'm getting help from the social work department to see what I should add, but here's just some basic information about social work, what types of things that they do. They certainly are involved and can be involved in any law, either criminal or civil law. I do have a video of a forensic social worker that did work at Clovis PD. He no longer works there, but it's a good resource if you want to look at that. And just different levels of social work to learn more about. We do have a master's of social work at Fresno State, so go look at their information if you are curious. But you have to have a bachelor's degree in social worker related field, which I would argue we are related fields. And then you need to get a master's degree from an accredited school, which would be, here is one. And then after you get the master's degree, you then have to take and pass the exam for licensure in your state. So that's a little bit about that process. See what else. So that's just a little bit about being licensed and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know much about it, but that's the information that I've gathered and my student assistant gathered. Okay, lastly, we have some different resources. This is the American Psychology Law Society, which is what a lot of us belong to in a conference we go to. So look at these different websites. There are Fresno State Career Center pages that would be useful to you. Take a look at these. And then websites to search for government jobs specifically. We've got the state of California overall. You can search by city like Fresno or Clovis or Madera, or across the entire country, usajobs.gov. But the key with a lot of these is that you have to check things very frequently, because they might only have jobs up for a month or a couple weeks. So you have to keep checking, and you need to have really good search terms. So what words are you searching to find jobs? And it's going to take a little bit to figure out the types of jobs and names that might pull up information. And the same job might be called two different names in two different cities. So keep all of that in mind. It can be an arduous process, but looking through all this information and having great search terms and looking a lot is going to be really important. And that's it from me. So sorry if this was long. Glad you looked at it, and I hope it's helpful. Again, if you have any specific questions or things that should be shared, that you think I should add, I would love that feedback. And anything else, I want to make things that are useful for you guys. So thanks again, and goodbye.